There you are, playing that free Steam game that you recently bought just because you really wanted to, and all of a sudden, you're a furry. You didn't ask for this, you didn't choose this, but all the same, there it is, and it's treated no differently than playing as an Aryan human. Stupid intro. This is wrong on so many levels. No one should ever have a random chance of being a furry sympathizer. And we should never express that there is no meaningful difference between playing as a furfag or an Aryan soldier, or that they are moral equivalents. And before someone equivocates and says that not all animal-looking humanoid creatures are furries, if they have snouts, then they are out, to destroy your Western society specifically. And unless the game goes out of its way to explain that your character has been brainwashed by the odd ones out, then they're a furry. In that Sonic game, when it turned you into a subhuman beast, did the game go out of its way to explain to you that your character has been mutated and brainwashed to fight for the Jewish side? Yeah, that's a dead meme right there. Oh, and on a completely related note, can we please stop forcing people to play as the Jewish Bolsheviks as well? There you are, playing a World War II game, and all of a sudden, you're a communist. You didn't ask for this, you didn't choose this, and second worst, same as the first. There it is. I mean, that's literally the name of your side in the game. The Ministry of Propaganda can do better than this. Even if you put aside all the traumatic experiences that our citizens have had with these groups, who have had bread stolen by communists, or have had years of their childhood wiped out by furries, no one should have to wear the fursuit of an ideology they find disgusting without joining these cults intentionally in your game. And by making people do so, we get them to stop thinking about it, to stop thinking about the masterminds behind these things. We normalize them. We make them just window dressings for entertainment. The fursuits, the symbols, they become things that no longer inherently revolt us. They weaken our normal disgust when seeing the embodiment of these ideologies. Now, does this make us completely ignore the degenerates that comes with these ideologies? No. But for some people, it moves them from the territory of absolute heresy to just weird. It makes typing OWO in chat move from unthinkable to just silly. It means that you might not take furry porn all over a website as a warning that you should immediately leave, and if you don't leave, you might start buying into the degenerate ideologies there. It seems like such a silly thing to get so worked up about. But it's things like this that erode our safeguard from heretics and subhumans that we've fought so hard to destroy. Buy 100 hours of playing a furfag. Their voice lines and quotes become in-jokes and memes with your friends. By the 9,000th time that you've respawned as a communist, you're either ceasing production or making fun of them, neither of which helps the global crisis facing the Western world every year. So what do? That's easy. Don't make them morally equivalent or else. Don't make there be no in-game moral difference between your furfags and your Aryan soldiers, between your degeneracy and your anti-degeneracy squads. Reframe Undertale as a dark alternate history documentary, or simply take one of your non-popular sides and reskin them so that it's an Imperial Guardsman training exercise, rather than making the heretical decision to play as a furry. A good example of a game that does this is No Man's Sky. You're completely alone with no subhuman mutants or Xenos to ruin your fun. In fact, having all of your players be rogue traitors, training for a possible chaos incursion, it highlights how real and true the threat of a chaos incursion is. And if you decide that you need furries and communists to be playable, don't make them balanced. Don't allow gamers to buy games with furry characters in them. Allow players to choose whether they want to be degenerate or holy like in Skyrim. Now, of course, this has all kinds of in-game problems, such as making shorter wait times for zoophiles, but you know what? As consequence for the heretical action of sympathizing with furries, they can have their wait times artificially inflated, just like a bad mobile game. If it meant that players had an active decision in what race they want to be, if you're saying we need subhuman degenerates playing as furries in your game, and if you're saying we need it for creative freedoms, then your game better actually be creative in my standards. You can't really hide behind the fact that your game is a fantasy game and just say it's creative. If that were the case, you'd be required by imperial law to recreate an accurate depiction of the ancient fantasy tales, and be an accurate depiction of those stories. Once you make both of those sides equal, it's also no longer fantasy. So you can't really say you need playable furries anymore for a non-existent fantasy story. Oh, and once you start letting players use Xenos tech, it's also no longer accurate to the original fantasy stories. And you will be a heretic if you declare that your game will suffer if we cannot put players in the jackboots of the Zionist usurpers. And once your game is carefully designed to give glory to the state, created by a well-paid team from Germania or Berlin, and is not a faithful reconstruction from the ancient fantasy tales, and the story events of your game are verbatim copied from the original fantasy stories, you can no longer say, as an imperial citizen, that we need players to take up arms in degeneracy or xenos. And look, we're not even saying you can't make games about communists or more fluffy communists. We're not even saying you can't even make a game where you actually do play as a communist or a furry. But we are saying that when you play as a communist or a furry, it should cater to my ideals, not yours. And don't even get me started on the idea of playing as a banana peel. It can't be something that a private organization allows you to pay for with the express purpose of playing it. And really, if we're trying to tell you anything during this latest imperial decree, it's this. We are trying to force your games to have our ideals, because our morals and our worldview is just better than yours. And in this particular case, it wouldn't even be that different to change a few things here and a few things there to make me happy and no one else. All it requires is that video games make sure they give glory to the state and our worldview, and what factions we are trying to embody when we play these recreational activities. And as we build our game, we're thinking not just about getting paid, but we're also thinking about glorifying our nation. If you can do that for us, we might just not send you to the gas chambers. We can stop helping to normalize fur fags.